Hi guys, my name is Aubrey and you'll be hearing from Cassie later. But today we're going to be talking about disabilities in the education system and how these people are helped. What people do these disabilities that are helped in the school fall under, and things like that. So, first off, we're going to talk about how the education system helps these students and what's the difference between public and private school with these accommodations for these students. So, first off, for public schools, there are laws that they have to follow for these students with disabilities. There's the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Improvement Act. So basically what these two acts or laws are saying is that the school must provide these students with the right tools and the help that they need in order to succeed with school and help them learn. So that can include paras, IEP meetings, things of that sort. But private schools, on the other hand, they don't have to follow these. These are for public schools. Private schools run on their own system and rules. And to be honest, private schools don't necessarily have to accept students with disabilities into their school. A lot of these private schools will try and stir these students away, saying that they can't help them or that they don't have the right tools to help these students. And sometimes they'll even just cost more than other private schools or the rates for non-disabled children. So there's many things that private schools use to deter students with disabilities away from them. Now that doesn't mean that they don't have students with disabilities in them. Don't get me wrong, they do. But it's not predominantly found in private schools, just because of the fact that they don't have to have the resources to help these students. So students with disabilities struggle more within a private school rather than a public school. So that's why most students who do have disabilities will be at a public school rather than a private school. So some of the different disabilities that the two laws that we've already discussed go with is like people who have autism or people with Down syndrome or Asperger's and things of the such. And we're going to talk about autism and Down syndrome. First off is autism. So what is autism? Autism is a mental condition which is characterized by difficulty in communicating and forming relationships with other people and in using language and abstract concepts. So this basically is saying that children who have this have difficulty understanding others and communicating their feelings and things of that such. So like social skills, they may lack in those. They may be very internalized, very off in big group settings. They don't understand repetitive behaviors. Their speech and nonverbal communication type of things, such as if somebody is angry, they might not understand that with their tone of voice or their facial expression. It just doesn't register the same way as a normal person without this. And as well as them not being able to process thoughts, sometimes it's a struggle for them to express their thoughts because they don't know how to all the time. Things that make them angry can also make them very confused. And an example of this could be if with the repetitive behaviors, if they are used to a normal schedule if something is changed, they could be very confused, and instead of saying that they're confused or they don't understand, they may get angry, and they may fight people or yell or scream or cry, things of that such. And as well as having autism as a whole, there are many different things that go along with autism. So they say autism spectrum disorder because not every person is going to be the same exact form of autism. There's not two people who have the same exact problem or same exact issue as one another, as well as people don't always react the same way. Some people could be very high functioning and be have like a little effect of autism in them, but otherwise you couldn't tell if they had it or not. But there are symptoms that can occur early in the early stages of life. Things that include like late babbling when they're a child, or not recognizing their name, or not understanding that they should be happy during celebrations or things of the such. But yeah, that's autism. And another thing we can talk about is Down syndrome. That is also something that is included into the Disabilities Act. And what Down syndrome is, it's a cognitive disorder arising from a chromosomal defect causing intellectual impairments and physical abnormalities. So, Down syndrome, the chromosomal defect means that there is a error in the formation of their cells in the nucleus. So, their genes, genes are made up of chromosomes and chromatid. So you have 24 sets of chromosomes, and for Down syndrome there's an extra copy of the 21st set of chromosomes, and that is what causes this disorder and the symptoms and abnormalities. So there are 3 types of Down syndrome. There's trisomy 21, translocation, as well as mosaicism. So the most common one is the trisomy 21. That is the one with the 21st chromosome having an extra copy of it. The other 2 are rarely found. So when somebody says they have Down syndrome, they're most likely talking about trisomy 21 Down syndrome. So people with Down syndrome can also have certain or increased risk of medical conditions. Some things could be heart disease, brain damage, and things of the such. And Down syndrome is actually being diagnosed pretty early nowadays. You can actually do it prenatally now, which means whenever the mother is pregnant, or you can also do it at birth. So, for prenatally diagnosing, you have chronic villus sampling, and you have amniocentesis. So, for this more common one is amniocentesis, which is basically the extracting of amniotic fluid within the uterus. And the amniotic fluid has basically the nutrients and the DNA of the infant and fetus floating around in it. So then they can test that and see if the DNA has any sort of replication of the 21st chromosome, or if there's any other things wrong with the genetic information of the child. As we've said, people with Down syndrome experience cognitive delays, which is basically like understanding. So if somebody is saying something to them, it might take them a little bit to understand it and process it all the way. But most of these people who are older have been living with it. They know how to get around it more easily now. There's also education and therapeutic interventions that can help them understand things easier. And then what most people with Down syndrome want people to understand is, although they do have this disorder, they're still very productive. They can still do a lot of things, even though that some people might not think that they can. But they're very capable, and they don't want their disorder to keep them from having fun or doing things that normal kids would do, or adults. And that's where Cassie's going to take it away.
So Aubrey and we interviewed two people that have their own perspective on education and how a disability can affect the way they learn in schools. So we interviewed one para that works at the Francis House North School District, and she said that they rotate through many children in one school day, and they aren't assigned to one child. So they are going through many people in one day, and they're not assigned to one. And her duty is to be like a substitute teacher for the students, and they help them with their homework and review what they have learned in class. So this will help them learn more in their school day, and also help them with any disability that they have. And we also interviewed a student from Francis House North. His name is Brett Hammond, and he's a sophomore. And he has said that it takes him more time to take notes, answer questions on tests than another student, and his diabetes is a challenge every day when his blood sugars run high throughout the day. And he also loves his paras, but he wants to walk by himself in class like everyone else, and sometimes it's hard to make friends whenever he's with those paras, because he has to sit with them instead of his friends. And he also wishes to participate in sports in Francis House North. So it seems like that he would like to be treated as other people, and that he would rather be known as not his disability, but as a person. And this is our works cited page and our bibliography. Thank you.